Hey, my name is Tobin Porter Brown at Pete's Greens in Craftsbury, Vermont, and we're talking today about soil steamer and soil steaming greenhouse soils, and we have here a Decloid soil steamer, and maybe we'll start off by just going through the steamer itself. So you have your fuel tank right over here. It takes, we're using it with diesel, but I think you can use any form of oil or fuel oil. And so you got a 20-gallon tank. Comes down to your filter, your fuel filter, and then comes down into your furnace. And this furnace is shooting, basically it's shooting a big flame underneath a tank of water. And that flame comes through the furnace, up this side, and then through all of these open tubes that are surrounded by water, and then the exhaust comes out here. Now your water is in this tank, and if we come over to this side, there is a float valve right here, and that makes it so that there's maybe a little bit more than halfway full of water, and the rest is steam. The steam comes up, settles to the top here, and then comes off of your hose, which is warm, but that we'll show you that end in a moment. So this uses how much fuel per hour? So this is while it's running, it is using 3.5 gallons of fuel per hour, and it is putting out, what did we say, how many BTUs?
500,000 BTUs.
500,000 BTUs. And for our purposes, that is able to steam a 15 by 30 foot area in our greenhouse.
And how much time?
For us, that takes us 45 minutes to an hour while it's fully inflated. And the object of what we're trying to do is 180 degrees, 2 inches deep. And that kills off your diseases, your pests, and most importantly, your chickweed.
Most importantly.
Most importantly, the chickweed. So let's talk one more thing about pressure.
Yep.
If you turn off this switch right here, this ball valve, that turns off the steam to the place you're steaming. Now, give it a few moments, and this PSI gauge is going to increase, and then at a certain point, it shuts the whole thing off. Hey, there we go. Yeah. So now it's shut off, and that's just a safety switch. It doesn't need to be operating past 7 PSI. You can adjust that with these here. These are 2 adjusters. I haven't delved into that too much, but I know that if you do want to change that around, you can. And if you...
So 7 PSI is what it generally seems to run out, and that works well.
Yeah, yep. That's enough to inflate your tarp. That's enough to penetrate steam into the soil. And usually when I'm running, it's just running constantly anyways. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't actually shut off unless I turn off the ball valve. Mm-hmm. Let's turn that back on. And there's enough steam in here now that the PSI is going down, and at a certain point it will kick back on.
Yep.
Okay, so a few things. Electrical. You got your blower assembly here, there are 2 switches right here. Sorry, 2 plugs. Those plugs come into your box on this side. You have this switch right here is for your blower assembly. So if I flick that off, turns it off. Flick back on again, turns back on. This one down here is for your water pump. For whatever reason you want to turn that one off, that's right there. Why are there plugs here? Radio, yeah, exactly. I'm not entirely sure, but they don't seem to be, I don't know, they don't seem to be too useful. This plug right here comes into your main switch. Turn that off, that turns everything off.
So you need to have one electrical cord running to it and a hose of water, basically.
That's all you need.
And fuel in the tank.
Yep.
Can we go look at the tarp?
Yeah, I mean, I guess just sort of in summary, this is a really simple machine. It's a really simple machine, and all of the parts are pretty standard parts. I've taken a few of these blower fans out, and it couldn't be easier. I mean, you just crawl underneath, and there's two screws to unscrew, and the whole thing just comes right out. And so, if for other reason you need to service that or replace that, it's very easy to do. All right. So one other thing for the steamer, you have flames going. Like we said, flames coming underneath the bottom, up to the side, and then through tubes through the water bath. What tends to happen is that on this is steel tubes, and so occasionally you get rust on the outside of the tubes, especially because they're hot. They do rust. So periodically, it's good to flush the system a little bit. That is right here. We've already flushed this, but that's hot water. You don't want to touch it, but if you see that as brown water, it just means that there's a little bit of rust. There's also 2 places to flush the system down at the bottom here. One here and one over there. And so right over there. These are useful for getting rid of any rust that flakes off and settles. It's also really important at the end of the season to drain the whole tank so you don't have water freezing in here. All right, so we are soil steaming our bed here. Usually we are doing twice this amount. This is 5 feet by 30 feet. Usually we're doing 15 feet by 30 feet, but we only have this little bit to do. You want to completely prep your bed prior to steaming. Basically, you don't want to disturb the soil after you steam. So for us, we rototilled and raked it flat, and then laid the tarp on top. And
what's the tarp made out of?
What is the tarp made out of? I don't actually know the answer to that.
It feels like some kind of rubber.
It's a specialty tarp that is, I think, probably heat tolerant, because this is getting close to 210 degrees. Yeah. I can feel the heat coming off of it, and so yeah.
It's not a hardware store tarp.
No. Nope. You might be able to use a hardware store tarp for a little while, but this is nice because it actually is light enough that it can inflate, and it's durable enough to be able to withstand those really high temperatures. And so you want to lay out your tarp, and then you want to seal the edges. And I'm just using these steel rails to hold down the edges. and you can sort of see I'm losing a little bit of steam, but just as long as you seal it up enough to have it inflate, I think that's the key goal there. Then you have your hose coming in. Now here's a sort of an important point. You want your hose to be right at the edge. I've played around with it being in the middle or on the side, and it is so much easier to inflate the whole tarp with the hose right at the edge. I don't know why, but that's that's what you want.
Okay.
And
so remind us again, if you are using this tarp full width, which is 15 feet by 30,
yeah,
how long you're running it for, to heat to what level at what depth?
Okay, so we are trying to kill chickweed. We're trying to kill weed seeds, and so most weed seeds are killed off at 180 degrees. 180 degrees, and so I'm trying to sort of get the top 2 inches where the weeds would be germinating to 180 degrees, which for us takes half an hour of full inflation. Now, at this, when it's a full 30 by 15, it takes half an hour to really get up to full inflation. So you're talking about an hour of steaming.
Okay.
We have pretty sandy soil. We have pretty light soil. If you have heavier soil, clay soil, it's going to take a lot longer to be able to penetrate those 2 inches or 3 inches. I mean, if you want to get down to 6 inches or 12 inches,
that's a whole different scenario.
You're running it for probably 6 to 12 hours. Hey Pete, so how much fuel is this taking?
Well, not as much as we thought it was going to. That's the great news. So this tarp is 30 by 15 feet. It's not fully laid out here. So that's 450 square feet. We're finding when we use the whole tarp, we run the system for an hour and a quarter. It's 3.5 gallons an hour. So let's just say we're using 4.5 gallons of fuel. Fuel these days is $2.50 a gallon. So let's just say we're going through $12, $13 worth of fuel. That comes to about 3 cents per square foot in fuel. For me to be able to have weed-free soil, do that once a year at 3 cents per square foot in fuel, that's a tremendous bargain. We've had times in the past where the chickweed is so bad we've had to abandon a seeding of spinach or claytonia, what have you. And then even when we're able to take care of it, the hand weeding takes a bunch of time, and we don't have that kind of time, especially in the fall. So I'm very pleasantly surprised by how little fuel this is taking. And we're thinking now we have 2 acres of tunnels. We're going to be doing them next summer because it only comes to about $840 per acre, and that also seems like a tremendous bargain.
So I want to show you the difference between a steamed section and an unsteamed section. We seeded Claytonia in this house, and we had a great germination of both the Claytonia and a whole lot of weeds. So we took out half of the house and steamed it, and was able to reseed Claytonia about a week later. So on your left, this is what was previously seeded in Claytonia. This was not steamed. On your right, this is seeded about a week later after steaming. And so far, we have a pretty good stand of Claytonia coming up, and really no weed seeds to speak of. I've looked and haven't really been able to find almost any chickweed. So just to say again, your crop on your left is full of chickweed and about every other weed, and your crop on the right was steamed and seeded about a week later and here you can see it. You know, there's very little weed pressure, but that makes all the difference.